Hi, everyone. This is my first attempt at a presentation video of what is currently my favorite show, Better Call Saul, which I'm referring to in this slide jokingly as Better Call Jimmy Saul Gene, whoever the last guy will be. And this is my predictions for the final 4 episodes of this tremendous series that I've enjoyed so much, and that we've reached this point in the show where we've kind of become untethered from the timeline that we've been on. And I think that opens up all sorts of possibilities for the writers of the show, who have been the writers of the show, the writers of Breaking Bad, probably the greatest collection of writers for any TV shows ever, just consistently great and everything. So let's take a look. And I'm not going to have any fancy videos or sound overs or clips from the show or pictures or anything. I don't want to get any copyright issues. I'm just going to have a sort of a blank presentation, textual in nature, where I go over some of the stuff that I think is going to happen in this show. So let's take a look at some of the assumptions that I'm making about these final 4 episodes. Again, the writers have done an amazing job keeping all of us fans in suspense, especially in spite of the fact that, we knew that most of these characters, or a lot of them, were going to make it into Breaking Bad because this is a prequel. I always thought it would be very easy or easier to figure out what was going to happen as this show progressed closer and closer to Breaking Bad time, but they have totally kept us in the dark, and probably still are, in spite of my best stab at a prediction here of what's going to happen. I think now that they are free of trying to link the two shows together so very carefully. I mean, this upcoming episode will be their final linkage of the 2 episodes. I think they're just going to have a lot of fun. The writers are free, and they're going to have some of that just fun. And with respect to Kim's use of that word in the final episode, sorry, Kim, they really are going to have fun with ending this show in a very different way, I think, which I'm going to go into. I think the final 4 episodes are going to be a series of time leaps that will cover about 12 to 14 years, get us up to close to the present day 2020s by the time it's over. I think there will be a leap in time at the end of the next 2 episodes, maybe even the third, depending upon how they write it out. So that's some of my assumptions. A few more. The next episode, Nippy, is going to be a quote-unquote Breaking Bad episode. That's not really, I mean, that's pretty much a given at this point. We know Walt and Jesse are going to be in it. After that, we'll have a Gene episode, but I only think we're going to have one Gene episode. I think Gene's been a good foil to keep us guessing throughout the series about what's going to happen to Jimmy. I'm just going to refer to him as Jimmy unless I specifically refer to a portion of his mini persona here, but we're kind of figuring out what's going to happen with Jimmy after Breaking Bad. But Gene's kind of a boring guy. I think they're not going to spend a lot of time on him either. Maybe just one episode to get him clear of Jeff, the taxi guy, because I just think Gene's a kind of a boring character, and it's not really something that I want to see at this point them spend more than one episode on. I'd like to see this next persona that we're already hearing about, the one that Bob Odenkirk and Ray Seahorn have both publicly stated. There's going to be yet another Jimmy persona after Gene too, so we'll get to see that. And I think they'll spend the final 2 episodes with that persona, and I think that's when Kim will return, maybe toward the end of that next to the last episode and for the final episode. Now, most of my predictions here specifically will deal with the next episode, because if I don't get this right, then most of the rest of the stuff falls apart. So let's take a look at Nippy, what I think is going to happen there. I think in the last episode, we saw that abrupt time jump at the end of the episode that got us up around either 2005 or 2007. There's been some confusion there a little bit. The tag said 2005. So I don't think that really matters. I think that was just an establishment shot to get us into full Saul Goodman mode, to get us into Breaking Bad time. I think in the next episode, we'll be moving up to around 2008, 2009 in Breaking Bad time. And we will see Saul interact with Walt and Jesse. I think I thought this for a while, the most logical time for Saul to have this interaction would be around the time that he meets the two. It doesn't have to be that way, but I just think for a couple of reasons that it would work more sensibly that way, because I think what this episode is going to do is going to have Saul confront Mike about what really happened to Lalo. That's why I think it will happen before or close to the time that he meets Walt and Jesse, because Walt and Jesse scare the hell out of Saul, thinking that Lalo might still be around, and he just doesn't want to deal with that possibility anymore. So having had that little episode in front of the RV with Walt and Jesse, Saul confronts Mike and demands to know what happened with Lalo, and maybe even guilts Mike a little bit because of Kim leaving him over all the happened with Howard and Lalo and all of that. So Mike will definitely tell him that Lalo is dead, because we never see Saul. We never see Jimmy Saul really that nervous or worried about Lalo again. It's like he was still thinking he might be around when he first meets Walt and Jesse, but that never seems to even enter his mind again after that. So I'm assuming that he finds out what happens to Lalo. And he finds out enough information from Mike and maybe also from Walt and Jesse, and just piecing some stuff together over time to figure out where Lalo and thus Howard are buried. Because he knows that Howard was buried somewhere, because Mike told him and Kim that they would expect the body to wash ashore, but that it's never going to. So it's easy for Saul to know that Howard is buried. And if he figures out where Lalo is buried, something to do with the lab, he will know where Howard is buried too. And I don't think that's going to come into play immediately. I think it's going to come into play toward the end. We'll also get to see the Marion, or the Carol Burnett character. And I'm not going to make too many specific predictions about this character. A lot of people think she is the judge that has been referenced a few times, Papadumian, I think. Could be. I have just an inkling of an idea that she is either a client of Saul's, or she is perhaps Ed, the disappearer's wife. We know that Ed is probably going to come into play somehow, but the actor who played Ed is now dead. Maybe Ed has a wife who also assists in these, and maybe Marion is that wife. I don't know. That's a possibility. That would make sense with what this overall idea I have is. But it's not necessary. But I think the Marion character will be very important. She's going to be like a tissue that connects these 4 episodes in some way, because she's going to be the only character besides Jimmy in all of his iterations to appear in all 4 of the final episodes. So she's going to play some important role that's connected to Jimmy / whoever, and all the way up to the end. So I'm not going to make specific guesses on that. I just don't have enough information. But that's something that's going to happen. At the end of Nippy, I think we'll move forward in time again into Gene time. Now, the keys to all of this were, if I'm right about this, even roughly right, Saul will have to find out something about the location of the lab, and also what happened to Lalo and thus Howard, for this prediction to make sense. That's got to happen in the next episode. And the nature of who the Burnett character is, the Marion, will definitely impact how the story is told over the final 3 episodes. Again, is she the judge? Is she Ed's wife? Whatever. Now, the subsequent episodes, I'm just going to briefly sort of include all those together, because if I'm wrong about the next episode, then all this is sort of moot anyway. I think the 11th episode will deal with the Gene situation. We'll finally move forward into Gene time and see how Gene resolves this blackmail attempt by Jeff the cab driver. I don't think Jeff the cab driver was sent by anyone. I've never really that's never really done anything. That idea to me just doesn't seem to make sense. I think the guy's just looking to blackmail him. So I think Jimmy will successfully deal with that, but he may have to use Marion or whatever Marion is, Ed's wife, whatever. He may have to use her in order to get himself out of a situation with this guy and leave Omaha and go into his next identity, whatever that is, and we will have another leap forward. I don't think we'll have more than one episode of Gene. Gene's kind of a boring guy again. I don't think we spend that much time with him. We leap forward again. I think in the final 2 episodes, in fact, we may leap forward several years, all the way up to roughly the present day, sometime in the 2020s, for the final 2 episodes. In this last persona that Jimmy will become, I think that person will be a bit closer to Jimmy than either Gene or Saul are. Jimmy will have gotten older. Remember, if we're up in the 2020s, that will be essentially almost 20 years since the beginning of Better Call Saul. So Jimmy at this point will be maybe 60-ish or so. His health isn't good. This is just me, flat out prediction here. His health isn't good. But he's more comfortable with who he is now. He's not Saul anymore. He's still flashy, of course. He's still Slippin' Jimmy, of course. But he's just an older, a little more wiser version. I think he's going to be found out yet again, which is going to trigger the last push in these episodes. But he's not afraid of being found out this time, because I think he's going to be dying in these final 2 episodes. His health is not going to be good. Jimmy is going to eventually tell all in exchange for considerations, a better prison. He's going to go to prison, I think, or at least that possibility hangs over him. But because his health is failing, because he's older, he's going to use the information that he has to get better considerations. Before he does all of that, however, he's going to feel it necessary to tell both Marion and Kim to warn them, because they are connected to this thing that he's about to do in some ways, and it may blow back on them. I think there will be some tension between Jimmy and Kim that's developed over the years, mostly felt by Jimmy. I think Jimmy's going to have become somewhat bitter and angry at Kim, not to the point of being vengeful or trying to hurt her or anything like that. I think he's just going to resent, as time has passed, the fact that she left him and what's happened in his life since, the fact that he's fallen, he's been unhappy, he's been lonely, and so forth. I think some of that anger is going to be directed at Kim. I think resolving that feeling will be something that happens in the final episode. I think Jimmy will tell all, whether it's in some kind of trial setting or on TV or a book or whatever. This will include the location of Howard's body, so that his former wife, and his family and friends will finally know what happened to him. And I think at the end, Jimmy will die. I think in the end, he will be comfortable with who he is and what he has done. The tension, any anger that he's felt toward Kim, will be resolved. He'll be at peace. And his tombstone, which will be next to his brothers, will read James and McGill. Well, at least that final part, to me, is a perfect ending for this show. I really don't think... I like the idea that there will be something of a happy ending. This is not going to be a completely happy ending. It is Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, so there's going to be some sadness to it. But I think the idea that Jimmy will have learned over time to accept who he is, to not be so angry, to get all of that out of to free himself from all of that once and for all, and to accept the fact that to sort of spiritually or metaphorically, again, connect with his brother that he really loved many, many years ago, and to reclaim his name, his real name, Jimmy McGill, the person that he always has been. So those are my predictions. I hope I'm right, but if I'm probably wrong about this, but we'll see. Please leave any comments, anything that you see that might be a logical problem. I'll be glad to read those and respond to them. Hopefully, we'll all enjoy the next 4 final episodes of Better Call Saul. Thank you for listening.